We know that we're doing a good thing, and we've planted over 53,000 trees, and we've created this spark within the community. But we would also like to actually record and actually get some data that shows what we're doing.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognises and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosie Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Our guest this week is the very petite, the very beautiful, but mighty activist, Kimberley Durham. She is a microbiologist by training. Oh, look at all these letters after her name. PhD, Masters in Parasitology, Honours degree in Applied Zoology. At the heart of it, she is so passionate about helping people live well. She is a mum, first and foremost, to 3 amazing teenagers who are her teachers and keep her life full and interesting. She's also very prominent in the Weleda Wellbeing Advisor Network, which is where I first met her. She supports her community in exploring organic skincare and more natural approaches to health. And she is the chair and co-founder of Harborough Woodland, where she takes a very practical role in promoting environmental stewardship and community engagement. She plays netball, she's currently training to be a homeopath, the list goes on and on. Her vital energy force is so high, you can feel it when you spend time with her, and that is because she is aligned with exactly what she should be doing with her time on this earth. So get a cuppa and snuggle in for this one as you hear the beautiful voice of Kimberley Durham. Hi there, thanks for joining us again. We are on our 3rd episode of this very, very important topic of detoxification, and episode 33. I love that it's episode 33. And today we have an amazing guest who's been my dear friend for a long time. I'm just loving the fact that I can just invite all my friends to come on this podcast to talk, and how I've filled my life with these incredible people, Rosie. I've done that on purpose. But today we have the beautiful Kimberley Durham. Hello, my love. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for the invitation and to be included as one of your incredible friends.
And we met Kim at Weleda when I was invited to be integrative health consultant, and we did our piece of health creation at work project, and you were leading the environmental arm of that project back then. We can come back to that. But we are sitting here in awe of what you've achieved and would like to take you back to the beginning, really, of where these seeds got planted for you, of your passion for the environment. Where did it all begin, Kim?
So I've always loved animals. I was always a little bit unusual in my family. There was never a love for animals and never a passion for animals. So nature was very, very close to my heart from the start. I had aspirations to be a vet, but that really got me into the kind of understanding the environment, looking at the animal activism and that kind of like the body shop model and the trying to stop people testing on animals. And so right from as far back as I can remember, to be honest, I've been vegetarian since I was 11. So yeah, I've always campaigned where I can, but very much not quite as forward facing perhaps as I'm doing it at the moment. Is probably quietly in the background.
So it started with your, I guess your vegetarianism was about the protection of animals too, sort of more coming in from that angle than the nutrition. And indeed, that was your first degree, wasn't it? Zoology.
Yes. Yeah. That love of animals. So when I didn't, when not veterinary, animal conservation. Yeah, that was my thoughts behind the applied zoology degree. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
And you've gone on to do a master's and a PhD now and got more and more specialized, looking down into the world of parasitology. Yeah, yes. Amazing dedication. So you two worked together, didn't you, at Weleda?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, for a number of years. Yeah, and I remember the first time I met Kim, and she said something very quietly to me that landed completely in my heart. And it was almost a shock, because before then, Kim would sit in the team and not really say very much. And then when she spoke, she would come out with this incredible information. And my ears pricked up. I became completely present with her. And all I kept hearing all the way through when I worked with Kim was, this woman must speak. This woman must speak. And even today, I'm like, right, here's another platform, Kim. There you are. Please speak. So I'm sorry about that, darling, but it just had to be done, because what you've got to share with the world, what you are sharing with the world, is so, so needed right now.
So Kim, when you moved from the animal welfare side of things, and I think you joined as a volunteer in many other contexts, didn't you, as this was all gathering steam?
Yeah. So are we talking tree planting now, Rosie?
Well, before, I know that's been more recent, but in your sort of 20s, 30s, what were you doing? I think you were involved with the Wildlife Trust and other organisations.
Yeah, but I was probably quite passive at that time, I think. I think it really, the always wanting to do something. And I, to be honest, at that age, I didn't have a Karen in my corner telling me that I needed to talk more, because she's a little person that sits on my shoulder and says, come on, Kimberley, be brave, put those big girl pants on. And so I didn't have a Karen at that point. But I think it's probably the arrival of my children was a real kind of like, right, I need to do something now. I was also with Weleda later on, and that, the power that working with like-minded people, knowing that you're not alone with your crazy thoughts and that there are other people behind you supporting you and passionate about, wellness and looking after the environment and all things that encompass that as well. So it took me a little while. Whilst I had the want to do it, it took me a while to gain momentum, I would say.
Yeah. But your children's arrival, tell us about that. What was it that quickened in you at that point, do you think?
So I was doing my PhD when I was pregnant with my eldest, and that was quite a kind of like an end to my lab work then. I think I scared my supervisor, who's like, you're 2 weeks having the baby, you need to leave the lab now. And so that was my exit point, really. I then used the time after that to write up my PhD. And I think that really gave me the space, because as you pointed out, I'd gone from degree to degree to degree. So I'd been in academia for a very long time, and I loved it. I loved it at the time. But that break to look after my eldest kind of gave me that opportunity to reassess. And I do often describe it as kind of like moving into the light side when I think about where I came to then. After that, I became a Weleda advisor. The children were at school. It was a great job to be doing whilst they were there. And then the plight of the planet and the damage that we were doing has just been elevated. And it all happened at the same time. You know, the young children were growing up, and I really wanted to be able to say to them, look, I've tried.
Yeah, I guess that might have had something to do with it, you know, the sort of that. And I think it's such a big thing for all mothers and fathers these days. You know, what world are we creating for our young? So tell us where your tree project began, Kim.
Yeah, so it was. I didn't know it was going to be trees initially. We were very lucky. My in-laws moved down into the area that we live in Market Harborough in South Leicestershire. And so I had requested from, I look back now and think it's quite amazing that the incredible head teacher let me do it. But there were kind of stirrings from within the school that I used to go and volunteer at, that my children were at the primary school. And they wanted, you know, they were worried about climate change. They could see things, you know, through the news. It was a subject. You know, they're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, they're youngsters. It's too much for them to already be thinking about the fact that the world that they live in might not be the same or might not even be there. So I approached our head teacher and I asked if I would be able to take some of the children from the eco committee, those that wanted to a, I want to call it protest is the wrong word, to a march in our town centre. So she allowed me to take, I think I had 10 of the children of the eco group that wanted to go, and I enlisted a couple of other parents, and we took them down and we stood for a lunch hour. She was very adamant that we wouldn't be allowed to take the children out of lessons. So they gave up their lunch hour and they stood and they chanted and they clapped and they banged drums just to really raise awareness as part of the Fridays for Future campaign that was happening at that time.
Is that Greta Thunberg?
Yes. Yeah. So we did that. It was incredible. The children loved it. They wanted to do it again. But we'd had a little bit of grief from some of the residents that were of the town that were walking past that were quite clearly blaming the children for the damage that was happening to the planet. They were, you know, yeah, and I didn't want these children that had given up their lunch break to be witness to that and to feel that. So I had a word with my father-in-law and we basically regrouped, and we had more people come down with us so that there was a buffer between us and the children, because it really shocked me, I have to say. And
the children were to blame how?
So one conversation I had in particular with a lady was that the children, I mean, I think the oldest I had was a year 5 child, so 9, but they all had smartphones. They would all be on their smartphones all the time, and therefore that's why the planet was in the state that it was in.
Okay, so obviously very misqualified and difficult energy that you bumped into there.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary, shocking, really. Yeah, but your father-in-law waded in. I think you know him, don't you, Karen?
I don't, unfortunately. I've just heard of him. This feels like this very healthy masculine energy that, again, has supported Kim in helping her to take action and to speak out. So I love him already for doing that.
Where did it go from there, Kim?
Well, there we got together, Bruce and I, and we realised that actually we really needed to do something. You know, it shocked him that his grandchildren were there having to chant. And the two of us together, I'm quite well, I like a chat. I like, I'm quite well connected in the town that I live in. So we then put our heads together and decided, what can we do? We joined a couple of groups that were starting transition town groups and things like that. But it wasn't until we realised, both of us realised that we needed to go faster. We needed to do things now. We needed to do things that were immediate, that people could, really kind of get their hands dirty and actually get involved in it. It needed to be community focused. So we settled on trees. It helps that both of us love to be in the garden anyway. So we formed a group in February of 2020. So it was right at the start of the pandemic. It was, absolute roller coaster trying to create bank accounts and, when you couldn't go anywhere. But we just gathered people. We told them what our plans were, what we wanted to do. And these people just kept drawing themselves to us. And I think all but two are still with us now. They still, so we've got this incredibly strong committee of really passionate people, all with their own different skills, that they bring what they can, they do what they can. There's no pressure. We've got a system that means nobody can stay in post for very long. So, we all step down and get voted back in again so that we make sure that it's a really fair system. And one of our wants is to make sure that the group is sustainable. So, we want to make sure that the model that we create will be going in 50 years' time if it's still needed.
Brilliant. And so, practically speaking then, how did you do it? Where did you do it? How did you get the trees? How did it happen?
Rosie, I don't know if we were just in the right place at the right time, or if it's because we've both got an awful lot of energy and passion. I'm sure there was probably a combination of both, I guess. So just to kind of set the scene very slightly, we have where we are in Leicestershire, we've only got 4% woodland coverage. So we are the second lowest area for woodland coverage in the country. So we knew that trees were what was required. But thankfully, the county, so Leicestershire County Council, has Charnwood Forest up in the north of the county and the bottom of the National Forest. So if you create an average, we're quite well covered, but just not where we are. It's like a desert down on the Leicestershire-Northamptonshire border. But Leicestershire is quite forward thinking with regards to trees, and they've got a policy I'll backtrack. So they've got a policy to plant more trees. We also have a lot of ash trees in our county, and ash trees have ash dieback that's coming through at a rate of knots. So there's a big campaign to get more trees in the ground to replace the ash that are going. And as a grassroots community group, we are eligible for those trees. So we can access trees that would take a huge amount of paperwork for landowners, farmers, other people to get hold of, providing that we bring the community in to plant the trees.
Brilliant. So you found a way to get the trees. And what about the land?
The land is tricky. The land was tricky to get going, I have to say. So we've tried desperately hard to plant on public land. The loopholes you've got to jump through, the bureaucracy, it's very, very difficult. So we started with a couple of landowners that I think we knew through friends of friends, and we built a portfolio basically. So we've worked with a landowner. They've then recommended us to their neighbours, who've recommended us to their cousins, their uncles, their friends in the pub, and it's just roller coastered from there. It's incredible. It really is.
Gosh. And what sort of trees have you been planting?
So we've got we only plant British native trees. Well, they're the ones that we have access to. So we get our trees through Leicestershire County Council. We've got 3,000 trees a year for the next 5 years from the Highways Agency. Those have been slightly different. So again, British native, but we've got some sweet chestnuts in there, some alders, oaks, a whole variety. And we plant trees and hedges. So a lot of our trees go in as hedges because that's the landscape of Leicestershire. But yeah, where possible, we'll put trees in as well.
Gosh, well, Karen, what are you sitting there thinking? I can see you smiling from ear to ear.
Well, yeah, because there's a perspective coming. I mean, I've known Kim for a long time, but there's more clarity coming for me about how a person, first of all, Kim, I think you're representing many women and many men as well, who sit there feeling uncomfortable and sad about how we treat the earth and don't know where to start and wonder whether they are worthy to even take action. So I really just want to name that first, that you're representing today, having this conversation, so many of us. And what I spotted that you did very cleverly is to grow your activism, to grow your confidence, is that you surrounded yourself with like-minded people. I mean, let's write a book on this now, how you become an activist, right? Because don't beat ourselves up that actually we say things like, I haven't got time. Am I worthy? Who am I to even do this? Or even have fear of challenging some of these systems. Step number one, go into a community with like-minded people. I mean, I've watched with my very own eyes you blossom in that container. So, and then you found this very healthy masculine who was there all along to come in and support you. And from there, boom. Now, when you're talking about the tree project and, I can hear it in your voice. You've connected with that activist inside and she's growing in strength every single day. I mean, hats off to you, girl, honestly, because there's so many of us that don't get that far, but I think you've been in the right soup and you've chosen that. So I just wanted to reflect that back first.
I can so relate, Karen, to what you're saying, because as a young, very wet behind the ears doctor, full of passion for holism, I didn't have a tribe. And it was when I found the Bristol Cancer Help Centre, that's now Pennybron UK, I was suddenly in a group of my people, and we all thought the same. And I was there for 15 years before I felt able to come out and effectively go solo and start health creation. So we need our tribe to grow that strength and to start feeling what, that these feelings we're feeling are normal and right, and that we have strength. We have strength. So all these trees, I can't even imagine how many trees is 53,000, but I think Robin Hood would have been very, very happy with you. I think that's more than a forest. I think that is several forests. But were the tree areas kind of joined up into woods and forests, or was this all in different places, Kim?
Yeah, they're mainly in different places, but we try very hard to connect. So it might be putting a new hedgerow in where we'll connect an existing hedgerow to another hedgerow. So we're creating wildlife corridors. But I'll be honest, we've grown from trees as well. So trees are our kind of like our flagship, I think. It's the marketing, it's the recruiting of people. The town that we live in, is 25,000 people. It's a large town. People have, relatively big gardens. We are lucky here, but they're not enough to plant, lots of trees in. So it's creating our community within the town space to come out into nature, into the environment, to see parts of Leicestershire that they wouldn't have access to normally. So we start with trees. We work very much with the landowners and what they're after. But we're connected with the Hawk and Owl Trust, so we get bird boxes in. We've helped facilitate quag ponds, so newt ponds that have been excavated for the area, again connecting these pockets up so that there's corridors for the wildlife to travel to.
So I think you told me that you have 15 committee members and now 700 volunteers in your group.
Yeah. I mean, that's our Facebook community, so I couldn't definitely tell you every single 700 of the people have come and planted, but if they've recommended to their grandchildren or their school that they have us in, then I'm taking those as volunteers.
Wonderful. And tell us more about wildlife corridors. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so particularly for Leicestershire, because it's quite a monoculture, there's huge amounts of grazing, beef and sheep grazing here, and so you get this monoculture of land which isn't a home to very much. And then by creating diversity, by adding hedges, shelter, you create a safe space for the wildlife to pass through. So it might be a strip of hedge with hedge trees in so that the birds can pass from tree hedge to tree hedge, or it might be the actual hedgerow itself that the insects, the rodents, the birds can travel along. And by connecting areas up, then you're increasing genetic diversity, you're creating habitat. So it's hugely important because we still need our farmers to farm. We still need sheep and cattle. So we can't, we're never going to be able to go back to the days where it's the country is completely wooded. But actually, if we can connect these pockets, then we'll be escalating the space and habitat for wildlife.
And you mentioned as well as biodiversity, about the water. I think you called it Slow the Flow.
Slow the Flow, yeah. They're a group, actually. That's the name of a group in Calderdale, and they are our heroes. They were brilliant for us when we first set up. But yeah, we flood badly in Market Harborough, perhaps not as terribly as Calderdale for sure, but we have a clay soil and we have hills all around us, and the town is built right in the centre of the valley, and we have a river running through it with a flashy clay river. So it rains on the hills and then it floods, it runs down the hills and into the town centre, floods the houses, the drains can't cope, you get surface water flooding. So we are kind of like as part of our tree planting, which is so trees, and the root system that the trees put out is absolutely incredible for holding back water. So if you get times when there's very, very heavy rain, it soaks into the ground, the tree roots hold on to the moisture, the liquid, and then release it slowly once the rain stopped, which stops this spike that you get that causes the flooding to occur. So yeah, we are, as an offshoot from our tree planting, we're actually capturing water. We've worked with charities and groups to actually create some natural flood management projects, so leaky dams, and maybe one day we'll get some beavers in the area. Controversial, I know, but I'm very excited about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gosh, Karen, is this an area where Kimberley is?
Not really. I mean, it's the next county along from where I used to live in Derbyshire, but I think what's really landing with me, Kimberley, as well as you connecting up these areas with trees, and just amazed again at your knowledge of the land and how connected you are to it when you speak. But I'm really interested in how you're connecting up communities as well. That this community model you mentioned right at the beginning, that you want it to be sustainable and still be there in 50 years. So that to me, I mean, just tell me a little bit more about it. It sounds like it isn't hierarchical. There isn't a boss, that people put their energy in when they can and then step back when they can't, and other people move in. I mean, you're not just planting trees, love. That model I'm really interested in, because you've bypassed systems that have been, these systems with so much red tape that have thought over the last, so many 100 years, more and more rules. You're not trying to change that. You're bypassing it, and you're creating a new way of self-management. So just tell me a bit more about that sustainable model.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Karen. We are lucky. I mean, I say we're lucky. We've actually created the group that way. We did actually apply for charity status very early on, and were, after a lot of work, we were very definitely told that our work wasn't charitable. So we've continued with the grassroots community model. So we're constituted, but what that means is we aren't tied by the bureaucracy and the boundaries. I mean, we are talking about boundaries, we're right on a county boundary as well, which means that Leicestershire is the edge of Leicestershire's interests, although they probably won't thank me for saying it quite like that. And we're not really Northamptonshire, or Northamptonshire isn't actually interested in the periphery of the county either. We're on water companies' boundaries as well. So we're right between Severn Trent and Anglian Water. We're on the fringes of so many things, which means we're in a bit of a forgotten place. But what we've worked really hard at is keeping the group bureaucracy free. We can be a little bit cheeky. We can work in Northamptonshire. We can work in Rutland. We can work in Leicestershire. That's fine by us. We're not going to say, no, you need trees. We've got trees. You need a space to plant them. Yeah. But the community that we've built is something really special, and I have to say I'm really, really proud of it. We have we've got groups coming along saying, look, we love what you're doing, how can we replicate it? So we put on a training day last year. We don't want people to exactly copy the model, because it might not work in their area, but if we can help them, if we can create risk assessment templates for them and just share like like Slow the Flow did for us when we first started, then we can create other groups, like-minded groups doing similar things in their areas that are developing what is needed in that area. And our volunteers are just incredible. They just keep coming back. You know, they rock up. We had an event this last weekend. We were at the top of a hill, so this one couple had come up. They were absolutely shattered by the time they'd arrived. They were on their bikes. They'd strapped their spades to the cross handle of the bike and had come up to give us a couple of hours of their time. You know, it's and they just keep coming back. They keep.
So what is so interesting, because what is it that makes somebody do that?
Yeah.
You know, what are they getting out of it? It's something very deeply aligned inside, and a knowing that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. We had one lady come, and I remember chatting to her when she'd left, and she was really timid when she'd arrived. It was an absolutely freezing day, because the downside of tree planting is you do it from November to March. So we're coming to the end of the season, but it's cold, it's wet, it's windy. And we were on at the edge of a hill looking in a village outside of Market Harborough. The sun hadn't reached where we were, so it was absolutely bitter. And this very quiet lady came, and she signed in and she registered, and we took her up to the planting site, and she cracked on, and she came back and spoke to me at the end of the day, the end of the session, and said, you know, I didn't know what to expect. I'm new into the area. I know I wanted to do something for the environment, and I wanted to meet people. I was a bit nervous when I came along, but I feel amazing now. You know, what an amazing opportunity. I wouldn't have ever seen this view. I wouldn't have met these landowners. You know, I wouldn't have met these people. And she's, you know, she comes back.
Wonderful. It just touches my heart. And you said there's 700 people in the community, or they're on the Facebook group. And every single one is just as important as the other, isn't it? Whether they just tell one person about it, or they plant 200 trees. It doesn't matter. The fact, what matters, I think, is that they showed up. They showed up and they've shared what they can about it. I think sometimes in groups you can get this competition over, I'm not as good as them, not as worthy as them because they've done more. But I keep trying to, you know, share the fact that actually you've done what you can, and that is enough. And it's so, the ripple effects you never see, do you? You never see the ripple effect of that. So,
you know, we when we were talking about the community principle within the health creation principles, it's such a deep need for people to belong and to be recognized and to be valued. And I was at a brilliant conference last summer, which is the IPM Institute of Personalized Medicine. And we were incredibly lucky to have a very special guy there called Dr. Vivek Murphy, who grew up in Yorkshire, actually. And he had one parent Indian, one British, don't know which way round. But he managed to become Surgeon General in the United States for 2 terms of 4 years each, once under Biden and once under Obama. And he spent his first term looking at the impact of isolation on health and defined it as one of the leading causes of ill health of all sorts. And then as he was parting, he thought he would try and analyze the drivers for unhappiness and the drivers for happiness. And he made as his parting prescription to America to say that where we've gone wrong is focusing on wealth and power and fame. And what we need for a happy future is the connection between love and purpose and service. Yeah. So he defined this as, you know, where we grow that beautiful, beautiful sense of connection and this feeling of taking responsibility and making a difference. And I think, you know, when we grow up in models that are so disempowering and, you know, that where we feel so far away from being able to take any control or do something meaningful, this that you're doing really gets people right into that driving seat of making a difference and belonging. Yeah. Is that what you hear people saying?
Yeah, I think maybe we've modelled his theory, haven't we? I mean, it is exactly that, Rosie. It really is. I think it's not just the planting of the trees. People are now talking about events that we did, 4 years ago. They'd really love an opportunity to go back and have a look at those woods and see how they're developing. One of the things that we really, really are passionate about doing is actually proving. So we know that we're doing a good thing, and we've planted over 53,000 trees, and we've created this spark within the community. But we would also like to actually record and actually get some data that shows what we're doing. So at the moment, we're looking at it from a wildlife point of view, and we are taking baseline data of our sites before we plant trees, and then recording the wildlife that moves in over the next few years. And so we will physically have that data. But how amazing if we could do something which we haven't developed it yet, Rosie, but I'm really liking the idea that maybe we can go back and actually survey our volunteers as well and actually capture what it is. We have done for our committee members. So we have an idea from them why they keep coming back and what brought them to our group in the first place and what keeps them with us. And maybe it's something to do with the time of year when we were in the pandemic and everybody was, so separated at that time. But loneliness was a key part of our the theory behind the want behind our volunteers coming, our committee members coming in. Education was another. So them being educated, and I'm learning something new every time I go out and plant, but also the education that we're delivering as well. So we go into schools, we put on talks, we network within our community and share as much. We tell everybody what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, that's just amazing. And you're doing all of this for free, all of it for the love of...
For the love.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure, I remember that De Montfort University in Leicester had quite a strong focus on well-being. And I'm sure there would be health researchers there who could help you look at it. There are some quite simple questionnaires, well-being scales, but quality of life scales, that to take that measurement. Because, if it's really win, isn't it? If you can benefit the animals and the water flow and the scenery and the landowners and your volunteers in this magnificent way. Yeah. So, and I think with trees, this is where we come from, isn't it? I think we come from being forest dwellers. So I think it's very primary and primitive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's knowing that this is the right thing. It's a knowing. We're remembering that this is the way to live in harmony with the earth, and we're not separate to it. So, Kim, how would you encourage people to take that first step then? Somebody who's listening here going, it's exactly what I've been feeling, but I don't know where to start.
So I guess join a group. That would be my first, there's loads out there. There's wildlife trusts, and there's also, so definitely join a group. And if there's not one, then you got to make it. You got to make the group. But there is a community online throughout Facebook where you can, and others, I guess, LinkedIn is probably very good for it as well, where you can find groups that are doing something similar and approach them. We don't have anything that we hide. If somebody came to us and said we need a constitution, can we edit yours, then it's there. There's no point. We had quite a hard graft to set our group up at the start, but we would much rather share our knowledge with people so that they can do what's needed in their areas. And we did that ourselves. We reached out to other tree planting groups and said, look, how did you do it? What did you do? And from them we said, okay, well, we don't like it like that, but we'll try it like this. Yeah, you've got to get out there. I think there's voluntary groups. So there's groups within the counties that support volunteers. And again, it's its own community.
Amazing. Are you linked to Tree Sisters?
No, not Tree Sisters. There is a local one to us, whose name's just fallen out of my brain. But they do something similar to Tree Sisters, and they're in just outside of Market Harborough. One group, though, that I think might be interested for people that wanted to do something similar is within the universities. And this is, I found it through Derby University, but there are departments that are assessing and studying nature connectedness of communities. And they're very, very good at drawing groups together. I've been some really, really interesting talks, events that have been on all day that have pulled people from different models, but doing different things. And so you can network.
Fantastic. And perhaps you could send us the link for that, and I'll put that in your biography. But in terms of your vision going forward, as expect your children, how big are the trees now? Before I ask you how big are your children, how big are the trees?
So we plant 30 to 60 centimetre whip. So they're a little underrated when you put them in. They're about this tall, but they are growing fast. We go back and we audit so that we make sure that we improve ourselves. We didn't mulch initially. We now know that we've got a much better survival rate if we mulch and things like that. So we're already seeing those as, a couple of meters tall. 10 years, we can plant a field of whips, and within 10 years you'd have the essence of a forest. It wouldn't be an ancient forest, but you would, the wildlife would be in there. You'd get species diversity.
Well, it blows my mind. When you go to the arboretums, we have not so far from here the Western Burt Arboretum, and I see these Tibetan magnolias that are 100 meters tall. Do I mean meters or feet? Very, very tall. And you just think the person who planted this would never have seen this. It's such an act of love to plant trees and forests and, arboretums, if there's such a word, for future generations. It's such an act of generosity. Yeah. So where are you going from here, Kim?
Well, definitely more trees in the ground. Definitely more trees. We're trying to tidy up our systems a little bit. So we've got a really good database and things. And I'm calling favours in from family members left, right and centre. So we really want to, like I said at the start, kind of make sure that we are sustainable. We've had some quite horrific floods in our area. So we'll definitely continue down the flooding route. Yeah, just more of the same, I think, Rosie, more of the same.
So if there was anything you would like to ask our listeners for, what might you need? What help might you need?
We're always looking for more volunteers, more landowners. Connections through landowners would be amazing. We've been donated all sorts of things. We now want to go down the wildlife monitoring area. So we're on the lookout for static back boxes and back monitors, camera traps. We need a container. Big ask, I know, but we've got an incredible landowner that allows us to store our stuff there for free. And we've outgrown the container, so we need another container. Yeah, I think connection and to share our work would be amazing.
Amazing. And so if people want to, if somebody listening has got a container, what's the name of the group and how do people get in touch with you, Kim?
Our group is called Harborough Woodland. Our website is www.harboroughwoodland.com. And if you head over to the website, you can find a contact us button.
So is that harbour as of in harbour for boats?
Harborough.
Harborough.
Yes. Harboroughh.
Oh, Harborough the place.
Harborough as in the place.
Okay, got it.
Suddenly worried I didn't spell it right then.
Glad we sorted that out. Wonderful. So, Karen.
Oh, my dear friend. Yeah, my dear friend. So beautiful to hear more about your work and reconnect. And I know you're just going to keep going and going and going. And you inspire so many of us, love. Thank you so, so much for sharing your story. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
My heart is bursting with appreciation. And I just think, we can all make this difference. If we just get up and make that step. Follow Kim's amazing example. Thank you so much, Kim, for being here today, but for everything you're doing. Just wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosie. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services such as my Dr. Rosie Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosie and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.